we want to maybe say a few things about the Arab League summit and the Egyptian plan.
Yeah, Ali, just maybe just give us like a thumbnail sketch of
Yeah.
what the summit was. This had been delayed for a long time. It finally happened last week or
Yes,
earlier
it's one
this
of
week.
these Arab League emergency summits that are
Yeah,
scheduled like a month out,
yeah.
like what if it was not an emergency,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the communique, and there were some absences from the summit, some notable absences. I don't want to get into all that, that's more than we can talk about now, but let's just say that the communique, I mean, there weren't great surprises in it. Anyone who's expecting the Arab regimes to suddenly turn into, bastions of resistance against the United States and Israel will definitely be disappointed by this communique. But the key points, and I think what people were looking for, is complete rejection of the idea of transfer.
Yeah.
They say that the to reaffirm the summit resolves to reaffirm the unwavering Arab position as emphasized in the Bahrain Declaration of May 16, 2024, categorically rejecting any displacement of Palestinians from their land, whether internal or external, under any pretext. Such actions constitute a grave violation of international law, a crime against humanity, and so on. We condemn policies of starvation designed to force Palestinians to leave their homes. Uh, they condemn the Israeli government's decision to halt humanitarian aid, uh, and so on. They warn that any attempts to displace Palestinians or annex occupied Palestinian territory will plunge the region into renewed conflict. And they resolved to adopt the Egyptian plan for the early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza, developed in full coordination with Palestine and Arab nations and based on studies by the World Bank, the UN Development Fund, and so on, and to prioritize the full implementation of the ceasefire agreement, holding all parties, especially Israel, to their commitments. There's a lot more boilerplate in the communique about the unwavering commitment to the two-state solution and all this sort of stuff that you would expect from them. But those, I think, are the key points. And then just to very quickly go over sort of the nuts and bolts of the Gaza reconstruction plan put together under, I suppose, under Egypt's sponsorship. And Al Jazeera had a very good article summarizing the key points. There are long of documents available that detail it, but just some of the key points from Al Jazeera. It's a $53 billion altogether program. The first stage would last about 6 months, while the next two phases would take place over 4 to 5 years. The aim is to reconstruct Gaza, maintain peace and security, and reassert the governance of the Palestinian Authority in the territory 17 years after it was kicked out following the fighting between Fatah, which dominates the PA, and Hamas. That's Al Jazeera's language. So there's a 6-month interim period, which would require a committee of Palestinian technocrats operating under the management of the PA to clear the rubble from Salahuddin Street, which is the main north-south highway in the Gaza Strip. The long-term reconstruction requires an additional 4 to 5 years. Over that span, the plan aims to build at least 400,000 permanent homes, as well as rebuilding Gaza's seaport and international port, and restore basic services, waste, communications, water, and so on. Now, the plan calls for a group of independent Palestinian technocrats to manage affairs in Gaza, in effect replacing Hamas. The technocratic government would be responsible for overseeing humanitarian aid and would pave the way for the PA to administer Gaza, according to Abdel Fattah Sisi, the Egyptian ruler. Speaking at Tuesday's summit, this is the Arab League summit, PA President Mahmoud Abbas said that an election could take place next year if circumstances allowed. I'm sure they won't if Mahmoud Abbas has anything to do with it. And then finally, on the security front, Egypt and Jordan have both pledged to train Palestinian security officers and deploy them to Gaza. The two countries have also called on the United Nations Security Council to consider authorizing a peacekeeping mission to Gaza until reconstruction is possible. So those are the elements of the plan. Not all of them are new. They're things we've heard before. Some of the sticking points, Hamas has welcomed the plan. And then this is what Al Jazeera says, but I think this is a fair analysis. Hamas has welcomed the reconstruction plan and has previously agreed to a technocratic government, but it is less clear if it will accept the return of the PA, which itself would face the perception from its critics that it has returned to Gaza on the back of Israel's tanks. Hamas may be willing to discuss its removal from governance, but it is adamantly against its disarmament, something the Egyptian plan adopted by the Arab League did not discuss, and nor did the communique mention that. So, of course, as noted, Hamas has broadly welcomed it. The US and Israel have rejected it. I don't take the US rejection to be sort of clear and final. I don't think it was made at a senior enough level, and there's enough vagueness and confusion in this administration that I think we'll have to wait and see what this position is. And France endorsed it, and I'm just going to read this quote from France, which, if this attitude is repeated by Israel and its backers like France, I think will lead to a stalemate. France said, quote, "The proposal from Arab leaders constitutes a serious, credible basis to respond to reconstruction, governance, and security needs after the Gaza war," French Foreign Ministry spokesman Christophe Lemoine said, "but the plan must entirely exclude Hamas from governing Gaza, where it must be disarmed and give Israel security, give Israel serious security guarantees." So the Jews, I'm interpreting now, the Jewish victims of the Holocaust have to give serious security guarantees to the Nazi regime that murdered them. That's really the essence of the French position. And anyone else who says that that the resistance should be disarmed while the Palestinian people remain under occupation. And of course, I suppose maybe the French military could go to Gaza and try to disarm the resistance. Maybe when they're done with the mission that Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer want to send Ukraine, maybe they could send their troops, whatever they can scrape up, to Gaza to go and disarm the Qassam brigades. Let's see how that goes.
Unbelievable. Wow. Yeah. I mean, like, is there going to be another, so-called emergency Arab League summit, more down the line? I mean, to many people, I think it looks pretty performative. Again, there was nothing, drastically different from, the stated positions of those leaders in previous conferences or statements or press releases. But, I guess it remains to be seen if Egypt is serious about helping to rebuild Gaza.
I think the glass half full part of this is that, the Arab regimes are saying, don't expect us to go and liberate Palestine. They're not going to do that. They're never going to do more than they do now. But they're also saying we are not going to go along with any ethnic cleansing plans. We're not going to go along with turning Gaza into a Riviera. And the communique also stressed the key roles, I forget the language, it's somewhere here in my notes, of Egypt and Jordan as, let me just see if I can find that sentence.
Yeah,
they say here, we recognize, this is in the communique, we recognize the crucial role of Jordan and Egypt in confronting displacement, and the liquidation of the Palestinian cause. So this was also them saying, look, we're rallying around Jordan and Egypt in the face of this threat to displace the
Yeah.
Palestinian people. So it was maybe I think it was it did more than the minimum, and it was politically sufficient if you understand that you're never going to get very much from the
Right.
Arab League.